The presidential race is a toss-up, and that makes the race for a majority in the U.S. House highly competitive as well. In the 2020 general election, just 16 congressional districts produced split results. 9 Republicans were elected in districts that were carried by Joe Biden for president, and 7 Democrats won in districts carried by Donald Trump. That was the lowest such total since World War II, surpassing the previous low of 26 in the 2012 election. Yet, given that there are no more than 50 to 60 seats truly in play for either party in this cycle, the battle for U.S. House majority might still come down to the dwindling number of split-ticket voters out there. In this video, I will take you through my latest data-driven forecast for the U.S. House. But before I get started, please take a second to subscribe to my channel below. Less than 1 in 4 of my viewers are currently subscribed, and I really need your support to help me keep making videos like these in the future. Thanks a lot. Alrighty, now House Republicans under the leadership of Mike Johnson after the ouster of Kevin McCarthy enter this cycle having to defend an extremely narrow 220 to 211 seat majority. That is, against the Democrats who are now led by Hakeem Jeffries instead of Nancy Pelosi for the first time since 2002. Now back in the 2022 midterms, Republicans had a golden opportunity to secure a dominant majority. Joe Biden was historically unpopular at the time of the election, and less than a quarter of exit poll respondents had positive views of the economy on election day. Moreover, the party occupying the White House, in this case Democrats, had lost seats in all but 3 midterms since 1862. For all of those reasons, a Republican wave was pretty much unanimously forecasted by news outlets and election pundits. However, Republicans only ended up netting a gain of 10 seats in the House, leading to the most hotly contested fight for the speakership in American history. Now, Democrats' saving grace in that election was the Supreme Court's reversal of Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision that significantly heightened voter attention on the issue of abortion rights, one of few truly strong issues for the Democratic Party in terms of public opinion. Democrats especially overperformed in population centers with higher rates of educational attainment, where the party managed to persuade large numbers of highly engaged, moderate, and independent voters to swing their way. In the end, had national Democrats made more efficient resource decisions in more competitive districts across the country, they could have even retained their House majority. And that brings us to the 2024 U.S. House map. Democrats only need to flip 4 seats to retake the majority. And that, along with the fact that Republican presidential candidates have not won the national popular vote since 2004, a troubling trend given the decline in split-ticket voting, does support the argument that the battle for U.S. House control is a toss-up at this point. Now, I have identified 54 congressional district battlegrounds this cycle, according to my own analysis here, with data sourced from around the industry. Republicans hold an 193 to 188 seat advantage among the districts that lean strongly toward either party. Now, you may think that that is a low number of competitive races, 54 out of 435. But to that I say, for all the uncertainty surrounding the presidential race, one thing we do know is that it is going to be close. You're not likely to see a major wave favoring either party at the top of the tickets, and that means that these solid or likely districts down the ballot are unlikely to be competitive. That's not to say that none of them will end up being more competitive in November. In fact, I fully expect to be surprised somewhere on election nights. But for now, Republicans or Democrats are heavily favored in these districts. So, regarding the battlegrounds, I have created a forecast that accounts for each of the following data points: incumbency, partisan lean, the 2020 presidential margin in that district between Biden and Trump, the CVI, and the demographic-based prediction for that district. Now that tells us which party the district's electorate is more likely to favor based on factors like education, race, and income. Now these 6 data points make up the fundamentals column, and then I combine these results with the average race rating in the district from reputable election forecasters: the Cook Political Reports, Inside Elections, Sabato's Crystal Ball, Elections Daily, CN Analysis, Split Ticket. So that's the methodology. majority. Now here are the projections. The House races that are projected to lean Democrat in the 2024 elections are those where the projected results, based on all of these data points, is between 4 to 8 points in favor of the Democratic candidate. This includes California's 47th congressional district here in Orange County, where incumbent Katie Porter chose to forego running for re-election to run for the U.S. Senate instead. Other districts include Nevada's 3rd, New Mexico's 2nd, and then Texas's 28th and 34th. Now, of all of the battlegrounds I identified, Texas's 34th has the largest projected margin for Democrats. Despite Republican gains among Hispanic voters here in the Rio Grande Valley, this district remains a Democratic stronghold that is held by the incumbent Vicente Gonzalez. So the district did vote for Joe Biden by more than 15 points in 2020. Then over in Alabama, a special session of the state legislature was called to approve a new congressional map in July, after the Supreme Court ruled that its map discriminated against African Americans. The court then approved a new map in October that created a new 7th congressional district in West Alabama that is majority black, and here a new 2nd congressional district that is near majority black, with a black voting age population of 49%. And now, under the new lines, Biden would have won it by 12 points in 2020. As a result, every forecaster out there has Democratic nominee Shomari Figures as the heavy favorite, and I'm no different as it leans blue here. Then further north, Minnesota's 2nd district, covering the southern portion of the Twin Cities metro area, also leans Democrat. This district did vote for Trump in 2016, but Biden won it by a margin that is almost identical to a statewide margin of 7 points in 2020. As for Illinois' lone competitive district, it's the 17th, which Democrats have held for more than a decade. Trump won the district's old congressional lines in 2020 by 2 points. But under the new lines, following the census, Biden would have won it by 8 points. Indiana's 1st district, where Democrats have held power since 1931, is also expected to lean Democrat, with incumbent Frank Mervan running for re-election in this Biden plus 8.5 district. Then over in Pennsylvania's 17th and New York's 18th districts, both of which backed Biden by comfortable margins in 2020, Democrats Chris Deluzio and Pat Ryan are both expected to hold their seats, with no significant Republican advantages in these areas. Down in Virginia, the 7th district also leans Democrat, though incumbent Abigail Spanberger is retiring to run for governor in Virginia. Now her likely successor, Eugene Vindman, is a strong get for the party, and the district was redistricted to be slightly more Democratic following the 2020 census. Finally, up in New England, Connecticut's 5th and New Hampshire's 1st congressional districts both lean Democrat as well. They are both on the upper end of this category, with Biden winning Connecticut's 5th by 11 points and New Hampshire's 1st by 6 in 2020. In each of these lean districts, unless there is a significant Republican wave, Democrats should be expected to hold them in their column. And that does give the party 202 seats now in the U.S. House, 9 more than Republicans, with 40 districts still outstanding. There are 12 lean Republican districts, including Montana's 1st, Texas's 15th, California's 3rd and its 40th down here in the Orange County area, Colorado's 3rd, Florida's 3rd, that is Anna Paulina Luna's district. Then up in Iowa's 1st district leans GOP, as do Wisconsin's 1st and 3rd districts, Pennsylvania's 10th and its 1st, and then finally New York's 1st as well. Now, with all of those races added to the Republican total, their seat total has been lifted back ahead of Democrats with 205, with less than 30 seats now still left to receive a rating. Let's now go through the tilt races, where either party holds an ever so slight edge with a projected margin of between 1.5 to 4 points. For Democrats, 7 districts currently receive a tilt rating. They are Colorado 8, Democratic incumbent Yadira Caraveo won this newly created district by less than a point in 2022, an upset at the time as she trailed in the polls. She is now running as the incumbent with the incumbency advantage in what should also be a slightly more favorable national environment for her party. Moving over to Ohio, both of the remaining districts here receive a tilt blue race rating as well. The 13th is held by Democratic incumbent Amelia Sykes, who succeeded Tim Ryan in 2022 as he ran for the Senate. Again, this was an upset, as most forecasters had Sykes as an underdog headed into election nights. As for the 9th District, on the other hand, longtime Democratic incumbent Marcy Kaptur just keeps on defying the odds in this Republican-leaning district. It does have a PVI of R plus 7.3 and a pro-Republican demographic profile, yet Kaptur won by 13 points in 2022 as she has held this seat since 1983. Down in North Carolina, the 4th District tilts to the incumbent Don Davis, another one-term incumbent. He was first elected in 2022 with 52% of the votes. And like Caraveo over in Colorado 8, he now has the incumbency boost in what is a slightly Republican-leaning district with a PVI of R plus 2.7. Up in Pennsylvania now, the 7th tilts blue. The district was modestly altered by redistricting, losing Stroudsburg in exchange for Carbon County. This did make the district slightly more conservative with a PVI of R plus 3.8, but it did vote for Joe Biden by more than 2 points in 2020. And incumbent Democrat Susan Wild was most recently reelected in 2022 with 51% of the vote. Now finally, up in New York, the 4th District is based on the South Shore of Nassau County and is entirely within the town of Hempstead. The incumbent is Republican Anthony D'Esposito, who flipped the district with less than 52% of the vote in 2022. He does enter this cycle as an underdog against Democratic nominee Laura Gillen, as this district is quite Democratic-leaning, with a PVI of D plus 10 and a demographic profile that suggests that Democrats should win by more like 14 to 15 points. It's a similar story up in New York's 17th, another Democratic-leaning district that Republicans narrowly flipped in 2022. The New York Democratic Party simply ran a disaster class in those midterms, losing several seats that they really should have held. Mike Lawler is the incumbent Republican here. He only received 50.3% of the vote 2 years ago and now faces former Congressman Mondaire Jones. Now, those 7 races lift Democrats up to 209 seats, back ahead of Republicans for now as we shift over to the Grand Old Party's tilt states now, of which there are 6. Starting out west in California's 41st, it's right on the edge of leaning Republican as the projected margin is R plus 3.94. Republicans hold an edge in each of the fundamental factors. Perhaps most importantly, the incumbent is a Republican in Ken Calvert. Yet with that said, both Cook and CN Analysis have this contest rated as a toss-up, perhaps expecting Democrats to have a strong overperformance in a presidential year in deep blue California. Then over in Arizona, the 6th District does tilt in favor of the Republican Juan Ciscomani. He is also a one-term incumbent who flipped the seat in 2022 with 50.8% of the votes. He will again face Democrat Kirsten Engel in a rematch in November, but now is the incumbent in a district that Trump should win by a couple of points. Shifting gears over to the Midwest, starting in Iowa's 3rd District, another 2022 flip for Republicans is Zach Nunn unseated Sidney Axney by just half a point. Again, Trump should win this district in November, and Nunn is now the incumbent. In Michigan now, the 10th District is held by Republican John James. Due to redistricting after the 2020 census, this was an open district with no incumbent, so simply a Republican gain rather than a flip. It does have a Republican lean to it, though Biden did win the district narrowly in 2020. Back on our map, 2 more Republican midterm flips join this category. Virginia's 2nd, Senator round Virginia Beach, and New Jersey's 7th. Republican incumbents Jen Kiggins and Tom Keene Jr. are both favored as Trump won both districts in the 2020 election and is unlikely to underperform his 2020 performances this November. Alrighty, now those 6 seats lift the Republican Party up to 211 seats now, once again leading Democrats with 209. Just 15 districts remain, and they each have projected margins that classify them as pure toss-ups. These are Washington 3, Oregon 5, California 13, 22, 27, and 45. Alaska's at-large congressional district, so the statewide seat currently held by Democrat Mary Peltola. Then Arizona's 1st, Nebraska 02, which is a key presidential battleground as well. Michigan 7 and Michigan 8, New York's 22nd and 19, Pennsylvania 8, and finally Maine's 2nd. Now, with a split as close as this, the outcome in these 15 districts could very well decide which party wins a majority in the House this November. And given the high volume of competitive House races, specific developments in individual races, like single polls or fundraising advantages, simply have less impact on the overall balance of power compared to the Senate or the presidency. Ultimately, voters just have less strong opinions about House candidates themselves in these races, as compared to the parties at large. A big factor in determining how someone votes at the House level is the Democrat and Republican brands. That's why we should pay attention to not only shifts in the generic ballot polling average, but also the national polls between Trump and Harris, as again, the results are going to be highly correlated. Whichever presidential candidate manages to turn out more voters in these key congressional districts could decide the races, as they might just be decided by a few thousand, if not a few hundred votes. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Check out more content from my channel here. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.